Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Later in the programme, the Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka on the end of the Ayalon civil war. Former South African President F.W. de Klerk, who shared the Nobel Peace Prize with Nelson Mandela, of course. 3 Arctic explorers just back from the ice cap. And senior British politician Paddy Ashdown on an extraordinary week in politics. But first, Israel. Earlier this week, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu went to Washington to meet Barack Obama for talks about bringing peace to the Middle East. It's certainly not the first time an Israeli Prime Minister has met with an American president to talk about a peace deal, and judging by the reports of their meeting, it sounds like it might not be the last either. I'm joined now from Jerusalem by Danny Ayalon. He's Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister and pretty articulate to boot. Mr. Ayalon, thank you for joining us today. Looking back at the Prime Minister's visit to Washington, your Prime Minister's visit, and on the 2 major issues on which there is a disagreement between Israel and the United States, settlements and the 2-state solution, as far as I could tell, all the accounts I read, there was really no particular progress on either of these issues. They've agreed to disagree, haven't they?
Yes, I would say yes. Agreeing to disagree, but in a very respectful way, in a very friendly way, understanding the broader context of our shared values and basic interests in the region, which have not changed. On this issue of the Palestinians, well, I think here Mr. Netanyahu came forward really with a good faith approach of immediate negotiations with the Palestinians, with Abu Mazen. By the way, we have requested a meeting with Abu Mazen, but to no avail so far. But we have said we're ready to start without any preconditions, and I emphasize, Sir David, no preconditions. We're willing to start on a very intensive multi-track approach, whereby there will be a security track, an economic track, and also a political track. We do not want to procrastinate on that, and we would very much like to move forward.
So on the 2-state solution, that dialogue will continue, presumably?
Absolutely. And what we have maintained in Washington was that more than a slogan, more than just a, the wording, the substance is much more important. And we're willing to very much work and help the Palestinians to build capacity. So far as the security situation permits, our policy is to open up everything, to really have a free flow and really bring up the economic level, all other aspects of life in the West Bank up to par to Israelis.
I know your feelings about Hamas, but those people who disagree with you, they'd say they're not a rogue regime. After all, they won the election.
Well, this is also an interesting question, because the Palestinian Authority was the only place in recent history where armed terroristic groups were allowed to run in the election before disarming. If you look at other examples, whether it was in Iraq of recent, or Afghanistan, or even Bosnia, Sir David, all those who were eligible to run had to disarm, except here in the case of Hamas. And also, unfortunately, when we analyze the results of the elections, the Fatah won the popular vote. However, because of the districting issue and because of a lot of internal fighting among and between the Fatah members, Hamas just got the upper hand, although they did not win the popular vote.
Now, in terms of the settlements, the president said that in fact Israel had an obligation, according to the 2003 roadmap to peace, to stop building settlements. He was passionate about stopping settlements. But do you agree with him about the 2003 obligation that Israel has?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have said that, since this government here in Israel was elected. You know, the tradition of, you know, the democratic process and the rule of law, yes, we must abide by former international obligations of all previous Israeli governments, including this issue of 2003 and the roadmap to peace. However, the caveat here is that all the onus should not be put only on the Israeli side, whereby the Palestinians also have obligations which they are unwilling or even unable to take at this point, certainly not in Gaza, when Hamas just vows, and all you have to do is just go into their websites and to hear their rhetorics. They vow to exterminate, eliminate the state of Israel. So if we put it in the broader context, yes, we are willing to take all the risks necessary, calculated risks, of course. We are willing for political concessions, but they have to be mutual. And to front load or to put all the burdens of the process just on the settlements is not right. We have proven in the past that settlements will not be obstacle to peace. You know, in 2005, Ariel Sharon evacuated all settlements, 21 of them from Gaza.
And you supported that?
And I supported that, absolutely, yes.
In terms of Iran, Israel has made the point that it's not ruling out the military option, depending on what happens in the next few months. But apparently, at the same time, you've said to President Obama that you wouldn't use a military option against Iran without consulting the United States.
Against Iran? Well, absolutely. You know, the United States is our best friend and ally, and I would say the golden rule of the relationship is always close consultations, coordinations to the extent possible, and no surprises. So we understand that the ramifications on such a hypothetical approach that would have a far-reaching ramifications all over the Middle East and even beyond. But we were very satisfied to agree with the United States and President Obama that a nuclear capability for Iran is totally unacceptable, and we will not allow it to happen, hopefully. And there's still a chance to do it in peaceful means.
And so what do you think of the candidates for the Iranian elections on the 12th of June? Do you have a candidate that you hope will win out of the five? Or do you hope they'll all lose?
I hope they all lose, actually. We don't see much difference among them when it comes to foreign policy. Maybe they're they are considered quote-unquote moderate in terms of some internal reforms, but when it comes to Iranian pernicious ambitions in the region and beyond, they are all the same.
Turning to President Obama's expected announcement when he visits Cairo on June the 4th, what's your greatest hope for that speech from Israel's point of view?
Well, yes. Well, first of all, I think it's a great opportunity to really build a new relationship between the United States and the entire Arab and Muslim world. It's Israel's interest is that the U.S. and the entire international community and the entire Muslim community will really live in harmony with peaceful coexistence. So I think this is a good chance to convey this to all the Muslims and Arabs in the Middle East and of course throughout the world. I think this would be very important. Also, I'm sure and I know that since the Arab world is so much concerned with the Palestinian issue, we are as well. I think it will be an opportunity also for the President Obama to convey to the Arab countries to join in, but also to take some actions in terms of normalizing relations with Israel, in terms of helping the Palestinian Authority economically. You know, today, both the United States and the European communities are quite under a lot of pressure economically and financially because of the economic meltdown. However, countries in the Gulf, including Saudi Arabia, still have trillions and trillions of petrodollars, which if they just put a just a fraction of this towards building the Palestinian economy, that will be the greatest contribution from them towards peace.
Mr. Ayalon, thank you very much.
Thank you so much to David.
F.W. de Klerk, Nobel Peace Prize winner with Nelson Mandela. That's after this short break.